Hi, Ben from Tenson's here. We're going to talk about the Prochem Legend GT. Okay, so let's talk about the Prochem Legend GT. It's probably the workhorse of the carpet cleaning industry. It's our most popular model, and it's also one of the most popular models in the USA. The Prochem brand is the #1 selling brand in the USA. So what makes a Prochem so good? Well, a lot of it's down to the engineering and the way it's actually made. So let's talk about the specifications of the machine, the gauges and things that you can see on the front, and then we'll go through some design features later on. So what is the machine? It runs a 23 horsepower Kohler engine. It has a 330 cubic feet per minute airflow blower. Now that airflow is measured here, not what's going in. Now when I show you later on what our heat exchange looks like, you'll understand the reasons why it's important to measure a truck mount here versus what goes into the machine, because you've got so many restrictions with a heat exchange. I've used machines in the past that said they're that 350, 400 cubic feet per minute, and I remember the first time I used this, I went, wow, this is so much more power when I was using it on the floor. So don't be fooled by a specification. It really does come down to actually using the piece of equipment. So why would they run a 23 horsepower when their competitors are running a 20 horsepower? Well, it comes down to the life of the motor and the fuel consumption of the machine, as well as sound. By running a 23 horsepower, we're running the machine at 28 to 2900 RPM versus 3100 RPM of the competitors. That makes a big difference to the life of the engine. By running it at that 28 to 2900 RPM, it's also the top of the torque curve on the Kohler engine. So when you put the machine under load, it's sitting right at the peak and making the maximum amount of torque to drive all the componentry inside the machine. Fuel burn is a big important part of that too. We're looking at a maximum of 3.8 litres per hour of fuel burn on this particular Kohler engine. So when you think about that on a year-on basis, how much fuel your machine's using, you might spend a little bit more on a Prochem, but you'll probably save a lot less over a year just in fuel alone. So as you can see, the way the machine's designed, it's second to none. Prochem is now owned by Karcher. The machines are made in their Karcher North American facility, and seeing it for myself and the way in which they build these machines, it's incredible. You know, we're talking. I've seen a sticker that was a little bit on the top of here that didn't look quite right, so they sent it back to be readdressed before they reassembled the machine. So every single component, every single part of this machine is manufactured to exactly the same specifications. So if you were to buy a hose for this machine, it'll fit your machine. It's not a case of, oh, this hose is shorter than that hose. So it's built like a car specification. So top of the range piece of equipment. So on the front of the machine here, what have we got? We've got solution pressure. We've got the vacuum gauge. Now the Prochem set their vacuum to 13 Hg. That's where they find the most amount of airflow and suction on the machine. Solution temperature. That solution temperature is being checked as it goes out of your wand, not over at the heat exchange. Waste pump out switch or auxiliary switch. Choke. Solution pump. You can turn the solution pump off on this particular machine and run it for restoration cleaning and not have to have water plugged into this particular machine. So that's a big bonus. The way the heat exchangers are designed and the way the bypass orifices are designed on this particular machine, you can turn the solution pump off and run it without any water. There's also an override here. This override is designed so that if you're having troubles with your machine trying to start it, and now we're talking, there's only 2 kill switches on this thing. If the tank in the back's full or you've run out of oil in your motor, this override switch will override that so you can start the machine so you know for a fact it's one of those components that are failing. And it might be a case of you need to put oil in your motor or you need to empty your dirty water tank. Start or key. The other thing you'll notice, all the bits and pieces you want to service on the machine is on the front. So you don't need to go digging into the machine to look for amp fuses or filters on the machine. They're all on the front of the machine. Throttle's on the front of the machine. Hour meter's on the front of the machine. The most important thing, screens and check valves, all on the front of the machine. Sounds very repetitive, doesn't it? But they've designed the machine to make it so much easier for the operator to understand and use their machine. These machines, especially in the USA, they put them into operations with guys, you know, when you've got 6, 7, 8, 10, 30 vans, you pretty much can't kill them. They're designed for operators that really don't know what they're doing. So on the front, you've got your lubrication port, your temperature orifice, and we'll talk about that, why there is a temperature orifice later on. Solution adjuster. So this machine you can run up to 1200 psi. You can stretch them to 1500, but 1200 is recommended for the chemical pumps. The temperature control valve. We'll talk about the reasons for this temperature control valve. Also, you will also notice on here there's no temperature adjuster. You don't set the temperature on this particular machine. And that's the reason why we've got this temperature orifice. And we'll talk about the reasons why it's been designed like this in our next program. Temperature orifice, chemical check valve, solution screen, and your water out. I pointed to this before, your air out, your water in, and your vacuum. We can also put a diverter on this to stick through the floor so that you can have the air and the exhaust gases going through the floor underneath the machine. Machine comes with a 60-gallon tank or 278 litre tank. So let's move on to the next step and go through a few more bits and pieces. Okay, so what makes up a Prochem truck mount? What components are in this particular machine, and why are these mixture of components make this machine what it is? So let's start with the pressure pump. So we've got a general pump, or what we know here in Australia is an interpump pump, high temperature pump. The pump itself has Teflon seals inside it. The Teflon seals can run 7 hours dry, and we're looking at 2,000 hours before we need to change the valves and 4,000 hours before we have to change the seals. So serviceability on that pump is far higher than previous models. The pump itself, as I mentioned, it's a hot water pump. So with the way this machine's designed, we don't need to worry about it overcooking the seals in the pump. The pump, as I said, can run dry for 7 hours. So, you know, if we forget to plug the water on, we don't need a low water pressure sensor to tell us, hey, we can't run the machine. When you go to use the machine and you've got no water coming out of it, you know you're not going to have any issues. So these are the things that Prochem have designed so that we don't need to worry about these types of sensors and things that fail. The motor itself, it's a 23 horsepower Kohler engine. Now, Prochem have this motor specially built for themselves. They changed the gears on the oil pump. They also changed the conrod on it, and they also put a brass collar bush on the output shaft, which is completely different to a standard Kohler engine. So they have it spec'd up to their specifications or what they believe will make the machine and make the engine last a lot longer. As I said before, the engine's overpowered compared to its competitors in this size. The other competitors are running 20 and 21 horsepower engines. This is a 23 horsepower. So what they're able to do with this engine is run it down at that torque curve that we talked about before, that 28 to 2900 RPM maximum torque. That allows the engine a lot longer life. It's not getting too hot, it's not overheating, and it's using less fuel. Fuel's a big cost these days at $1.20, $1.30, sometimes creeping up to $1.50 per litre. You know, if you're using half a litre to a litre less fuel per hour compared to another brand, you very quickly save a lot of money. The blower, it runs a Gardner-Devner blower. The blower itself is a 330 cubic feet per minute blower. It's capable of 15 Hg. Prochem set it to 13. That's where you get the maximum airflow from their testing on the machine. The rest of the componentry are standard componentry, which we use in a variety of different of the Prochem truck mounts. So the gauges are the same, the switches are the same, the throttle cables are the same. All these components are exactly the same in all the brands. Let's go through the chemical injection system. The machine has a chemical pump for last step chemical injection. You have your flow meter, your flow control, your prime, off, and on. You don't have to have the chemical pump on all the time. So very, very simple system. Virtually prime it up, get it set. Most of the chemicals will tell you what to set your gallons per hour at. It's just a matter of turning it on, pulling the trigger, adjusting it to what the chemical, whatever you're using, whether it's acid rinse, deodorizers, bacteria enzymes, whatever it is that you're adding in to your cleaning water. So let's move on to the heat exchange and how that's designed. All right, so let's go through the other components on this side and the heat exchange. As you can see, once again, nice and easy, accessible to get around this side of the machine. If you ever had to get to the starter motor, change spark plugs, or get to the back of the chemical injection system. The clean water tank, which has the float inside of it, nice room between the machine and that, obviously this being a rotation molded plastic component, and a lot of heat here. We've also got a heat deflector here to push heat away from this to ensure longevity of the tank and the lid. The heat exchange down here. So we've got 3 heat exchangers, as I mentioned before, 2 stainless and 1 copper. So the way the system works is you have clean cold water inside here. It goes into your pressure pump. From your pressure pump, it goes into the first heat exchange. From the first heat exchange, it goes into the second heat exchange. From the second heat exchange, it goes through to your solution manifold. Now, a pressure pump will make 15, 16 litres a minute of water. That excess water that you don't use will then get recirculated from the pump through the unloader, through the copper heat exchange right at the front, which is the excess heat that's left over after it's been drawn out of there by these 2 heat exchangers, and then back to the clean water tank. So what that's doing is making this cold water warm. If this water gets too hot from sitting stationary, on the other side it has a valve. The valve opens up at 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 165 degrees Fahrenheit into the dirty water tank. Fresh cold water comes in, keeps the machine nice and cold. So very, very, very simple system. Very, very simple here, as you can see. These heat exchangers can run dry with the way the temperature orifice and the temperature adjuster are on the front. The tank's made out of 5mm aluminium. As I said before, this tank is welded with 45-degree angles. It's cut out with a laser cutter, welded with machine and by hand. It's over-engineered for what it is, but you can be trusted that this machine and this tank's going to outlast anything on the market. Inside the tank, we have our waste basket. This is to collect any debris that you might pick up off the carpet, and so it doesn't go into the bottom of the tank and quite hard to get out. We have our filter to protect our blower from getting debris floating in there. Something that you'd clean. So servicing, cleaning, you clean this tank out when you finish for the day. You can put an auto pump out on it. We do the external diaphragm auto pump out for this particular system. You can have gravel and bits and pieces go through these diaphragms. They're fantastic addition if you're doing tile cleaning or you're doing large jobs so you need your pump out pump going. So let's move on. Let's go on to what comes with the machine, what comes standard with the machine, and wrap up the video. So let's go through servicing a Prochem Legend GT. Very, very simple, very, very basic. Not a great deal you really need to do to this machine. The engine, you're looking at 100 hours for the oil, 200 for your filter. Same with your air filter check at 200 hours as well. Spark plugs, all these components, very, very simple and easy to access. Pressure pump, I mentioned it before, 2,000 hours on the valves, 4,000 hours on the seals. Change the oil every 250 hours. The blower, 1,000 hours or 1 year, whatever comes first. It's more the if you run the synthetic oil, you can actually get a lot longer out of it. We recommend the Gardner Diva or Denver oil as standard. We only run that particular oil in it. So servicing from this machine, you're looking at 100 hours for your minors and 500s for your major. In the 500 hour, we're talking adjusting and checking belts, we're not replacing. We can go well over 1,000 hours on a belt quite comfortably. The belts themselves are match perfect belts, so they're specially designed, perfectly the same size. These belts last a long, long time. The reason why they last so much longer than others is the length of the belt. It's got a lot of cooling around the belt. A short belt doesn't get a lot of time to cool off. When you're not cooling off a belt, it overheats. Adjustment and alignment is very important with the belt as well. That's where you get wear and tear. So these are the things you check at your 500-hour service. 1,000-hour service is pretty much the same as the 500-hour service again, but we're changing the blower oil. 500 every 250 hours we're greasing our blower. But other than that, there's not a great deal to do. You've got some minor things that you're checking in your hundreds and your 100 every 100 hours, like your check valves. There is some instructions on the front of the machine to check your unloader valve or your pressure adjuster. Grease that every 50. Same with your float. The float doesn't need to be replaced once it starts leaking. It's got a very, very small little rubber grommet in there. Once that wears out, we take it off and put another piece on. That's another wear item that we check at our service intervals. So very, very simple machine. There's not a great deal you need to adjust. All the minor stuff you can do yourself. The major one I would recommend probably getting us to do, as part of the major one, we would pull the heat exchangers out and give them a clean, get the carbon off the heat exchangers. I showed you before what the heat exchangers look like. You do need to give them a clean because you are getting carbon on them. So that's your 500-hour service, and that's something we can do or we can teach you how to do. Okay, so what comes with the Legend GT when you buy it from Tenson's? Obviously the machine console and the tank, but the machine also comes with 45 metres of hose, 45 metres of pressure hose, your clean 15 metre clean water hose, a 12-inch wand, 12-inch 4-jet 2-inch wand. It also comes with a 60-metre hose reel and installed into your van. What we can do and what we can offer is additional floors, walls, bulkheads. We have which are not just your ones that we cut out, but actually purpose-built ones for your individual van. We also offer additional accessories such as external pump outs on the machine, or if you wanted to upgrade your wand from the 12-inch 1.5 to 2-inch wand to the titanium wand. This is probably the cheapest way to buy the titanium wand, doing the upgrade versus buying it outright. The titanium wand is probably one of the best wands I've ever used. When I originally saw them and saw the price of it, it can't be that good for that. I wouldn't care if I was paying double the amount now. These things are fantastic. They make your cleaning, they cut so well, they're so light. The head size, it's just perfect to get underneath your kickboards and things like that. It's a fantastic wand. We also have a full range of products, so we can add these things to your package and incorporate this into your package when you're buying a new machine. So if you're looking at finance, we can add these things in. So tile cleaning equipment, pre-spray guns, upholstery tools, accessories like that. So why would you buy a Prochem Legend GT over other brands? Well, for me it's quite simple. Oversized engine, creating less heat around the machine, running lower RPM, using less fuel, driving a blower, which creates, through a heat exchange, that creates over 110 degrees Celsius of temperature. You can run tile cleaning equipment on this particular tool. Serviceability, fixing it. You don't have the breakdown or the service items in this machine. You don't need to be a mechanic on how to fix and use this machine or do a service on this machine. So you've got 330 cubic feet per minute of airflow. You've got a 1500 psi pump, hot water pump, and you've got a 23 horsepower engine. The Prochem brand has been around for many, many years, and this new specification, which they changed some coming up on 10 years ago, it's certainly hit the nail. Some people say, why haven't Prochem why haven't Prochem changed the machine? Well, what would you change? What would you add onto it? They've made a machine that's much, much easier to service, much, much easier to use. You know, you don't need to be a scientist to work out how to adjust different things on this particular machine. It comes with all the bits and pieces. The other thing it comes with our Tenson's backup service. Both Justin and I have been across to the USA to do the Prochem training on these particular machines. We have all the literature, and we have all the computer programs that we do need for the different models for these machines. So if you're looking for a reliable, simple to use, high quality machine, something that's going to last you a long time and going to be an asset to your business. Now remember, Australia is huge. You know, we don't have service agents right around the doorstep. This machine is so simple, and the breakdowns on these machines are so limited, it's not funny. The other big point of this is an asset. Remember, this is a part of your business. When it comes time to upgrade or you want to get out of the business, Prochem brand actually has a higher resale value than any on the market. So something really to think about when you purchase your piece of equipment. Get online or give us a call. We'd love to help you out with your truck mount equipment.